Hello everyone and welcome to my next talk, which is going to focus on project access.
First, I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Katka Černá, and I have gained my PhD in pedagogy at the University of Gothenburg. Currently, I'm working as a postdoc in aging in IT at the University of Siegen in Germany. And the communities and fields I'm interested in are CSCW, HCI, and the keywords I am interested in are learning, aging, and nursing. And in my presentation, I'm first going to give you an overall overview of Access Project. Then I'm going to introduce the work of our particular partners. And then I'm going to talk about my department and our work that we do here in University of Siegen. So first about the interview overview. Access Project is funded by a program that's called More Years, Better Lives, Potential and Challenges of Demographic Change, which is a EU funding. And our project focuses, as you can see, in our project we want to learn about the different forms of learning that older adults engage with. We want to focus not only on the high kind of fancy tech, but mainly on these technologies that can become meaningful in their daily lives. So often kind of off-shelf technologies, things that you can buy in a store like mobile phones, tablets, or any other devices that can be used on a daily basis. That also means that we are really interested in how we can reach those who are often difficult to reach. So those who are kind of on the edge of digital literacy and maybe have struggle with accessing digital tools and internet overall. So why do we actually are conducting or doing our research in the first place, our project in the first place? We know that the global population is aging. Many people also are increasingly in need of assistance, in need of help. At the same time, there is a general lack of attention to not only older adults, but also to the later life learning or learning that takes place later after formal education. Even though there exists a multitude of technologies which holds the potential to actually improve the life of the older adults, we also know that when it comes to the possibility to actually use these digital tools and for older adults to appropriate these kind of tools into their life in a meaningful way, there is still a lot to understand, and currently the digital technologies are not well adapted to the actual needs of the older adults. So what are the goals of the project? Overall, in Access we focus on the spaces or the environments where older adults can learn, and we try to understand how we can help them access these spaces, but also what might be the possible constraints or problems when they try to learn. As I said, for us it is important to reach those who usually maybe struggle with the access, be it because they lack the technological resources, but also because they might not know how to do it and they might lack digital skills. Further on, the environments or the spaces that we are trying to understand, that can be, for example, a home, but also formally organized courses, as well as more informal situation as peer-to-peer support. Second, we try to improve the situation in the environment, and we try to do that by coming up with innovative solutions in which we try to with which we try to overcome the problems when implementing our findings. What are the objectives of the project? Well, our practical results will be measures and recommendations on how to develop and design environments in which technology uptake is made possible for older adults and in which they can learn in a meaningful way. These recommendations, they are aiming at politicians, but also local organizations, municipalities, and other relevant stakeholders. In addition, we're also planning to build a mobile demo kit, which is an actual physical box with a set of technologies, as well as additional materials, which are going to be more or less in virtual form and which have some sort of didactic purpose. These supposed to function as some sort of source for learning, not only for older adults, but also for the before mentioned stakeholders, so they can learn about the experience of the older adults and can better understand their needs when it comes to learning how to use digital technologies. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about our partners' contribution. In our project, we are actually 6 partners from different countries and different continents. We're interdisciplinary and multinational consortium, which is important because older adults learning and their use of digital technologies is a problem that cannot be tackled from one discipline, but an interdisciplinary approach is needed. At the same time, we are aware and interested in the differences in the different countries. We know that aging in the context of the digital tools looks different in different places. That's why we have partners from Germany, Finland, Austria, Italy, but also Japan. And finally, we also know that the problem of aging and technology needs to be understood on 3 different levels, which is the individual level, at the group or the community level, and political or the policy level. And each of the partners also contributes to these 3 levels in a little bit different way. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about what each of our partners actually do and what do they focus on. So our partners from Italy, they come from the Health and Science of Aging department, and they try to understand how health and digital literacy are connected and how to design training programs that older adults can participate and can help taking part in the programs can help them in improving both health and digital literacy. Our colleagues in Germany from Dortmund, their department is called Gerontology and Geragogy. For those of you who don't know, gerontology is a scientific study of old age or the process of aging. Meanwhile, Geragogy is the science of teaching older adults. Our colleagues in Dortmund are interested in already existing opportunities for education for older adults. So they study courses in which older adults can learn how to use internet, and they have maybe like a quantitative approach. So they conducted surveys at the beginning of the courses and at the end, and then they try to see what kind of needs do the older adults have, what kind of requirements, how this can be accomplished, what kind of possibilities the older adults have also from socio-economical perspective. Our next partner is from Finland. In Finland, our partner is from the Education and Special Education Department combined with anthropology. They focus on peer-to-peer support. You can imagine it as one older elderly teaching how to use technology, for example, a smartphone, another older elderly. And they have done qualitative observations as well as interviews with both with the tutors and the tutees. Our partners in Vienna, they come from the Department of Cultural Gerontology, which means that they focus on the practices and norms in relation to aging and older adults. What they are interested in and try to study is the actual lived world of the older adults and how technology is appropriated in the daily life. And they study through qualitative interviews and interactive talk-alongs with mobile and assistive technologies, which basically mean that they provide the older adult with a mobile phone or another assistive technology, and then let them interact with it and try to understand what happens in that interaction. And finally, you might be wondering, why do we have a partner from Japan, even though we are a European Union project? Well, our colleagues, they are actually from a German institute, which is placed in Japan. This department or this institute hopes to learn a lot about aging in Japan. Japan is one of the oldest populations in the world, and try to kind of transfer the findings to Germany. There, our colleagues are trying to understand impact of so-called ageless policy in Japan, which is a policy that focuses on uptake of ICT or digital tools by older adults. And our colleagues are trying to understand how this impacts activities of NGOs, municipality, and ministry representatives. They are trying to understand it from an approach called case study, which means that they use a range of qualitative methods such as interviews and observations. So that was all our partners, and now I'm going to progress to the part that we do here in Siegen, where I am based. In line with the other partners in our project, we also try to understand how do older adults learn to use digital technologies that are commonly accessible in maybe buying in the store. We also want to understand environments in which elderly can interact with these kind of devices and in which they have opportunity to learn. In addition, we also want to create these kind of opportunities and involve those who have no or little experience as to those who are maybe a little bit more experienced and they want to explore. And we do so by drawing on participatory approach or participatory design, which is a way how to design, especially today, technology in which those who are supposed to be using the technology, who are the end users, are actually involved in the design process. Now, we have a bit more broader take on design, and designing for us doesn't mean only developing products. Maybe when you create prototypes or mock-ups, or maybe when you evaluate technologies with your participant or your end users, but also the process of when person is actually using technology and when they try to appropriate it into their daily life. And this is exactly the part which we're trying to understand. In line with this, we also are trying to open up the design space to other relevant stakeholders. So not only to those who are actually using the technology, which are older adults, but also to those for whom older adults are important. So it can be formal or informal caretakers, but also municipality representatives or non-profitable organizations. So now I'm going to tell you about what we actually do here in Siegen. So what I started with was actually analysis of secondary data. My colleagues here have a long history of working together with bigger groups of elderly. And so we have a range of interview studies in which we can analyze. One of the studies focuses on senior learners and what are their needs in terms of learning environments, with a similar topic, but focusing on non-profitable organizations in Germany that are focusing on how supporting older adults in learning. We have another set of interviews, and finally we have another long-term study focusing on designing of sensory technology, during which older adults were involved and during which they also went through a series of workshops when they were trying to first learn how to use digital technology such as smartphone or tablets. And the reason why I'm showing you this kind of data is also to kind of point out that we're also trying to understand this problem on these 3 different levels that I was talking about before. That's why we have interviews with senior learners who represent this kind of individual level, but also interviews with non-profitable organizations and one representative of the municipality, so we can better understand how the needs of the individual learners can fit to the possibilities that are or opportunities that the teaching or learning organizations can actually provide. In addition to the secondary analysis of data, we have also started observing in the local computer club. That is a self-organized organization. That means that approximately 13 years ago, a group of seniors decided that they should start an organization in which they're going to be helping to other older adults on how to use digital devices. So it's also a form of peer-to-peer learning. However, those who are the teachers, they are actually extremely experienced, and often they know actually more about technology than I do. Today, the club is basically a room where older adults can come and sit with their technology, and then they try to, if they need help, they can ask one of the teachers or their peers around. And together, they try to explore this, not only kind of what's new and what's out on the market, but also these kind of daily things that they need to do, like online banking or maybe buying flowers online, that often are today a struggle for many older adults because the way the processes and the technologies are designed is not fitted to their needs. And in addition, we also want to organize these opportunities for learning that I was talking about before, informal workshops where we would invite groups of elderly and try to support their learning on how to use digital technologies in different ways, following this step-by-step, showing how to deal with things approach, trying to support learning between them. So when one realizes that they cannot do something, try to support them, that they do ask their friend who's sitting next to them, but also individual support by the researchers. In those workshops, we wanted to introduce this kind of devices, basically smartphones and tablets, which many of them do, but actually not all of them. And then more advanced devices, which would be smartwatches, Alexa. This is a smart blood pressure and Zumba, which is like an automatic vacuum cleaner. And we actually have started, which is very exciting. We had 2 groups of elderly with whom we meet on a regular basis. One of the groups have been formed from the computer club, and another group has been formed in the previous projects that I was talking about as well. We really focus during the workshops on building up the competency, not only to do things, but also to dare and to be willing to explore, as well as to overcome fear, which is very common for many elderly. They often struggle with the idea that they're going to break the thing or that they're going to do something that's reversible. That's why we choose the approach of kind of the building up takes place through first technologies that are either very easy or more common to them. So many of the elderly are used to WhatsApp. And so we used Telegram, which is another chat like application. And through teaching them how to use it, we also can teach them different things, like how to communicate with the group, that they don't have, they can send pictures, that they can adjust pictures, and so on. Often things that seem for us very intuitive and very easy can be a pretty big task for older adults because the technology is not really adapted to them, and also because they are not digital natives. The whole point of the workshops, in other words, is for them to get comfortable with these easier forms of technology so that they can build up and go further on. And we have managed to conduct 2 meetings with one of the groups and 3 with the other one. And then Corona happened. And as you can imagine, especially here in Germany, older adults are one of the most vulnerable groups, so we had to cancel our workshops. However, we decided not to give up completely, especially in these times when the isolation and in turn also mental and even maybe physical well-being is a big issue. We have decided to try conducting our workshops online, and I'm going to share you some of the insights. I think the main insight is, or the main thing we have learned, that we had to do all the things we have learned them or we had taught them, we had to kind of do all over again. So again, we stick with our two groups and try meeting with them on a regular and a little bit more frequent basis. Again, we had to go through this process of building up competency and becoming comfortable, because not many of them were used to using tools like Zoom or maybe Skype, and we had to test out several kind of approaches, trying to help them to learn it. So far we have done 3 or maybe 4 meetings, and now I have to say that the elderly are more comfortable, which allows us also to do additional things than just to focus on how to use Zoom, for example. The important takeaway from the workshops, though, were that it's really necessary for the elderly to practice on a regular basis. That is also why we decided to do them so often, so we can create some sort of continuity. And at the same time, we have seen that when we're able to show the elderly that the technology can be meaningful for them. For example, when one of them realized she can use Zoom to talk to her nephew who lives in Spain that she hasn't talked to for a year, we can really see that they can be really excited about the technology and actually try to more explore and see for themselves how they could use it. And that was all for me. Thanks for the attention.